She was also the best of British. You know, she represented the face that we were proud to represent us on the world stage. There's already been so much said about all of the values that she embodied, such as duty, service, religious belief, good sense, good humour. But she was more than that. She symbolised more. You know, she's the unchanging portrait that hangs in the village hall or the church. She's Christmas Day speeches and bunting. She's bank holidays and fates. She symbolises a sense of Britishness that I think people are worried is passing. I think there is this palpable sense of grief and uncertainty in the air that is about more than the death of a great queen, more than the death of a monarch. I think people have a feeling of a whole era passing. You know, there's a feeling of history with a capital H happening right now. And I think people are worried about what comes next. You know, if she's gone and all those values she represented, what's next? Do you remember when not very long ago politicians were scrambling to promise us a new normal, even if we didn't want it? Well, we've just come through this psychic shock of lockdowns and a pandemic. We've had a really difficult few years. And I think people know there are more difficult times ahead, especially with the winter and the economic crisis ahead of us. And her death feels like this punctuation point. She was always there, so what next? So first of all, I think there is a grief, there is an uncertainty, and I think it's making us confront death. And like you say, Dan, there is this amazing pomp and circumstance around these slow 10 days of mourning. There was a poet who was alive in the time of Queen Elizabeth I called John Donne, and he wrote some beautiful prose. The lines, you'll probably be familiar with these lines. Send not to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. When anybody dies, it makes us think about our own death. It's a memento mori, if you will. And there is no death in our lifetime which is more significant than the Queen. So that there are miles of people snaking through London in commemoration of this is really no great surprise. So in the last few years, we've seen people buried very hurriedly and with very little ceremony. But in this death, everything is slow. We have 10 days of ancient pageantry and pomp and circumstance. And you're right, I mean, I'm a fan of the Queen, but I am not a royalist. But, you know, even if you're not a royalist, the trumpets, the vaulted arches, the beautiful colours, the stateliness, just the sheer beauty and the slowness of it, can't fail to impress you and move you and touch you on some level. So I think there's a way in this time that people are being forced to confront in a very gentle way their relationship with death.
And Laura, to sum it up in 30 seconds, that was beautiful, by the way, but the emotions that people are feeling and the desire to queue up and share in this mutual grief, that is real.
I'm sure it's real. Of course it's real. She was a queen, she was a mother, she was a grandmother, but she's also been the ruler of this country for many decades. So people feel this not just at a conscious level, but also an unconscious level. And people need meaning. They need things to create meaning and to represent meaning in their lives. Rituals are hugely important for human beings, especially those rituals that are around birth and death. And it's no surprise to me to see people lining the streets. You know, millions will be watching on TV around the world.